Hey drawing buddies, welcome back. Today we're going to draw and talk about the Silver Surfer and Galactus. We're going to go from pencils, inks, to colors. So if that sounds like something that interests you, let's draw. I usually start out with the first appearance, so let's do that. The first appearance of Galactus and the Silver Surfer was Fantastic Four number 48 from 1966. It's actually a trilogy of books. It's 48, 49, and 50. 48 is considered Galactus's cameo, and I honestly don't remember if it's one of those books I would consider a real first appearance, because it's been a long time since I looked at one. But I did own one, so we'll talk about that later. Basically, in that story, Galactus comes to eat the Earth, and he comes and his heralds the way, and he tells me, Galactus is coming. He's going to each planet, so get your affairs together, and good luck. And the Fantastic Four obviously like, nah, we can't let that happen. And so they all fight with Galactus. They fight with the Silver Surfer. The Silver Surfer meets Alicia Masters. She's a blind artist who I believe was dating the Thing at the time. And she shows him compassion and reawakes his humanity. So he tells Reed Richards where he could find the ultimate nullifier, and which is a weapon that basically erases you out of eternity. It actually rewrites the whole universe without you in it. So it doesn't just erase you from reality. It rebuilds all of the reality you're in. It rebuilds your universe without you in it. So you never existed even as a thought. And that's Galactus's get out of jail free card for anything that might threaten his existence, which is very little in the Marvel Universe. But with the help of the Silver Surfer, Reed gets it. He threatens Galactus with it, so Galactus agrees to spare Earth for the time being and move on to somewhere else. And as a punishment to the Silver Surfer for helping Reed Richards, Galactus pretty much confines him to Earth. He makes Earth his prison. He's like, if you want to help these people so much, this is where you will live out the rest of your days. But weirdly, he doesn't take the power cosmic away from the Silver Surfer. He just sets up a barrier so that the Silver Surfer cannot leave Earth's atmosphere. We'll get to how he got out of that and all this stuff later. And that's pretty much the summary for Fantastic Four 48 through 50. Galactus has an interesting origin. He was a scientist on the planet Ta. It was the last planet left to exist in the universe before ours, before the Big Bang created ours, and the universe before was collapsing into its primordial little ball to explode and make a new Big Bang and create our universe. And they were a peaceful planet full of scientists and whatnot. And they accepted the fact that the universe was going to end, and that was the end of it for them. But Galen, Galactus, said, nah, screw that. I want to know what's out there. So he builds a ship to fly into the center of, the energy that's collapsing to form the ball that'll become our Big Bang. But instead of dying, he's sort of, I don't know if he hears a voice or he's met with something, but he's basically put into a cocoon, a cosmic egg. And when the universe explodes and the Big Bang happens, the egg floats around for a little while, and the universe starts to form, and then Galen hatches, but he doesn't hatch as Galen of Ta. He hatches as Galactus, the devourer of worlds. He's basically the balance of the universe. I forgot exactly what his purpose is, but he needs to exist for the universe to exist, to keep the balance of planets and life in check. So that's why he eats planets and energy, so that one thing doesn't outbalance another. He's part of the order of the galaxy. And even if you do kill him, which he has been killed, he will come back because he's essential for the survival of our universe. So after Galactus wakes up and he realizes he's starving and he has to eat planets in order to live, but they have to be a certain planet, they have to meet a certain criteria, and a lot of the planets have life on them. But that's beneath him because he's not good, he's not evil, he just needs to survive. And he builds himself the suit because he's basically just made out of cosmic energy, the power cosmic as it's called. It's probably the most powerful force in the Marvel Universe. And so to contain his energy and to save energy, because, more energy saves, the less he needs to eat, he builds the suit to contain himself. And the reason why he looks human to us is because he looks like whatever species he goes to visit. So if he comes to Earth, he looks human. If he goes to the Skrull Empire, he'll look like a Skrull. If he goes to the Kree, he'll look like a Kree. If he goes to whatever planet Groot's from, he'll look like a tree person in the suit. And he also builds himself a big old spaceship to go around in, so he doesn't have to waste energy flying through the universe or floating through the universe starving. And he didn't... It's not that he didn't care that he was eating inhabited planets, it's just that he didn't really have time to make the decision if he could find one that wasn't inhabited or not. If he needed to eat, he needed to eat, or he would starve. So one day, a hungry Galactus comes across the planet Zenla. Zenla was another peaceful planet. It's probably pretty similar to his homeworld, actually, now that I think about it. I never really did. You know, they're peaceful, they're scientists, they just go about their days when, you know, it's like almost a utopia, I believe. So, knowing their plan's going to be destroyed and everybody panicking, one of the citizens, a man named Norrin Rad, he decides that no, his planet needs to survive and Galactus should not be eating inhabited planets. So he goes and he flies a ship up to Galactus and he tells Galactus, he's like, hey, listen. And for some reason Galactus listens to him. I don't know why, I don't remember. It's been forever since I read this stuff. But he goes up to Galactus and says, listen, please don't eat my planet. My girlfriend Shalla-Bal is down there. She's important. She'll come back later. And, you know, everything I know and love is down there. And destroying that would be awful. Killing any planet full of life would be awful. You should be eating planets that will satiate your hunger but don't contain life on them. And if you spare my planet, I will become your herald. I will go ahead and I will find you planets to eat. And Galactus says, you know what? That's probably more efficient than me finding these planets, so I accept your proposal. So he infuses Norrin Rad with a little bit of his power cosmic, and he sends him off into the universe to find uninhabited planets. The problem with this plan is it was harder to find uninhabited planets for Galactus to feed on than inhabited ones. And, you know, the Surfer would skip over and Galactus would get hungry, and it would become a real pain. And I think the Surfer even hid a planet from Galactus once so that he couldn't eat it. But, you know, he saw through the ruse, and he basically took Norrin Rad's free will away. He suppressed who he was and just made him almost an automaton just to go out, find planets, and let him eat them. And it didn't matter if they were inhabited or not, you know. And Norrin Rad complied because the power cosmic erased pretty much who he was. Well, it didn't erase it, it buried it deep within him. I realize I haven't really talked about the drawing yet, but for the Fantastic Four movie coming out, I plan this drawing's actually been done for a while. I decided instead of actually drawing the Fantastic Four, it would be more fun to draw Galactus, because, you know, look at his armor. It's cool as hell. Because you can see the color picture I posted. And the Silver Surfer, he was one of my favorite comic characters growing up. He was in league with Wolverine and Batman and the Green Lantern and Flash. When I was reading comics as a kid, I would always pick up the new issue of the 90s run of the Silver Surfer. And that was a fun run because that introduced you all kinds of cosmic characters you never heard of before if you just started reading comics. Eternity, Death, the Living Tribunal. He was a cool one with the 3-head mask. He's pretty much right below the one above all on power scaling for the Marvel Universe, even though somebody killed him too. Might even been Thanos. I don't know how the hell Thanos kills all these people. And the In-Betweener, he was somebody who existed, you know, in between. He had a big fight with Galactus in one of the issues. There was Lord Order and Master Chaos. They were fun. And it also introduced you to other heralds of Galactus, because in that first issue, the Silver Surfer figures out how to get off Earth. We'll talk about that in a second. Because it introduced you to Nova, Frankie Ray, who honestly I'm not sure why they didn't use her in this movie as a female herald instead of the Shalla-Bal Surfer. But the Shalla-Bal Surfer doesn't actually bother me. So as long as it's a good movie, I'm okay with it. And maybe we'll get to see Norrin Rad further down the line in Doomsday or something. Who knows? But it'd be cool to see him in live action again. So I haven't really been drawing much before I started this video series. I would do a few drawings here or there because, you know, I set up at conventions sometimes and I sell prints, so I would draw things that I think would be good for that. But I didn't really just draw random things to share with the world, like these drawings that are in these videos. And when I saw the Fantastic Four movie was coming out, and I wanted to put a video out for that, it had to be the Surfer and Galactus. And it was challenging because I haven't really done a group shot or multiple characters in a drawing in a while, especially in the more realistic style, not the chibi stuff. So I basically treated it as, I wanted a big Galactus in the background and the Surfer flying away from him. And as you can see, I went through a few different iterations of that in the pencils before I really got to it and figured it all out. But this one was a real pain in the butt to get a handle on. But once I did, it all comes together. Also, in the inking section, I kind of tried to ink this one in a room full of people while babysitting and dealing with family. And, so I have to pause it and then pick it up again and then pause it and pick it up again. And one of the times while I was inking it, I forgot to hit record, so there's a chunk of the end of the inking that's kind of not there, but, the important stuff is there. Most of Galactus is there, inking the Surfer is there, so you get to see the important stuff, but that's something we'll worry about when we get to the inking section. Like this here, you see I just roughed in the Surfer really rough, and then I went back and I traced over him in pencil again instead of ink just to get the details and everything else right after I got the pose and everything the way I liked it. So getting back to the 90s Silver Surfer, issue 1, he is trying to break out. He just flies up to the thing and he gets as far as he can and bam, he gets knocked back. And bam, he gets knocked back. And he's like, this is crazy. There's got to be a way off of this planet. I'm losing my mind. Because up to this point, he's been on Earth for years. Dr. Doom's stolen his powers. He's met Mephisto. He's fought the Hulk and various other heroes. He's helped other heroes. But he hasn't had his own series since 1969. I think the series started in 68. And it only lasted for like 14 issues. And then he would just appear on the Fantastic Four every now and then. Or whatnot. And he had a one-shot in 1982, which is really cool. I don't really remember what happened on that either. I'll have to check that out. But so he goes down to the Fantastic Four and Reed Richards. He's like, any ideas on how the hell I get out of here? So they go back up to space, and they fly out of space without his surfboard, or something happens where he gets past the barrier without his surfboard, or Mr. Fantastic figures that out. I don't remember the exact details of the whole thing, and they figure that out so he could leave the barrier. It's not him that's tied to the Earth; it's the surfboard. So he is able to get himself through the barrier, past it. And since the surfboard is what's tied to Earth, he could recreate it. He could change its material. If something happens and it gets broken, he could create a new one. So basically, once he's out of the barrier that locks into Earth, he basically turns the surfboard into pure energy, so it could get through the border. Rematerializes it, kind of like a transporter from Star Trek. And bam, the Silver Surfer is free to explore the spaceways again. And that's where it goes. And for some reason, when he goes to see Galactus, Galactus isn't like, hey, what the hell, man? You're not supposed to be here. He basically, they think they work out some kind of deal, or the Surfer offers to help him with whatever problem he's having at that moment in exchange for him being able to stay free. And again, for some reason, Galactus doesn't just take his power cosmic away and drop him off on a planet. He lets him keep it. Because as far as I know, the Silver Surfer is Galactus' first and most powerful herald. Another thing, and I think it's 34 of the 90s Silver Surfer run, is when they reintroduced Thanos, because he was dead for a long time. I think he got killed off in the 70s. Either Captain Marvel did it or fighting the Avengers or something. And he gets resurrected in the Silver Surfer series, and he starts looking for the Infinity Gauntlet, which leads into the Infinity Gauntlet, which, the movies you all know and love. And for some reason, and I don't know why, the Silver Surfer, he is ridiculously powerful. I mean, if you're watching my other videos, you know that I'm always like, yo, Superman will win. Superman fights Thor, he wins. Superman fights Invincible's father, Omega Man, he wins, or whatever his name is, Omni-Man, he wins. But I think the Silver Surfer could genuinely take Superman. He's fast enough. He has energy absorption powers. He could create life. He could, he's pretty much almost, right below God level in the Marvel Universe. And for some reason, Thanos without a gauntlet was always able to beat the Surfer. And I never understood that at all. But that's how they wrote it. And I don't write comics, I just read them and draw characters for your viewing pleasure every now and then. But one of the issues of The Incredible Hulk that stood out to me, and I actually always make sure I have a copy of that no matter what I have to sell for whatever reasons or, why I don't have a particular issue. I always try to keep this issue around. It's Incredible Hulk issue 250. It's one of those anniversary issues. And in that issue, the Incredible Hulk fights the Silver Surfer. It's on the cover, it's a big thing, and it's actually really anticlimactic. The Hulk, Hulk Smash Hulk, 1980s Hulk, he jumps up on to the Silver Surfer surfboard, and he goes to hit the Silver Surfer. And the Surfer literally catches his hands in the air, and he's like, nah, that's not going to happen. And he sucks all the gamma radiation out of Bruce Banner, and he just kind of kicks him off his board like he's a wet rag. He stops him and from falling and dying because, Silver Surfer's not a murderer. And I think he gives him back the gamma radiation for some reason because I think he was dying without it. But, he just beat the Hulk like he was a non-issue in that. Of course, this is early 1980s Hulk, so I'm sure if they put him against each other again, they'd have some reason why he can't do that again, or the Hulk is growing beyond that or whatever. But he bodied the Hulk like he didn't exist. And that is why I think the Silver Surfer would be able to take Superman, because he's fast. I just said earlier, he's fast enough, he's strong enough, he has a really wide power set, and I don't think he could beat Superman because he would create kryptonite or make red sun energy or something like that, which he could do. But I think he would simply just realize that Superman is a solar battery because he has cosmic awareness. He knows the universe around him. He senses things. He knows how things work. And he would just be like, all right, that's cool. I can't beat you in a fist fight, but I could depower your ass pretty quick. And he would just suck all the sun radiation, the yellow sun radiation out of Superman. And that would be the end of it. And he's fast enough that I don't think Superman could speed blitz him fast enough to stop him. Maybe if Superman was sun dipped in like a blue star or something, or I think a white star, I believe those give Superman even more power than a yellow star. But I think your average fight, the Surfer would actually beat my boy Superman. Although I'm sure if there was some kind of weird crossover and it had to happen, they'd figure out how to have Superman knock Galactus out with a punch from flying through suns and stuff, because that's basically what Superman does. But I think if you take away plot armor, I think the Silver Surfer would actually win a fair fight between him and Superman. So if you don't agree with me, feel free to debate it in the comments if you get this far into the video. I want to read a couple modern Silver Surfer stories. One of them was Silver Surfer Black. I actually have the first couple issues of that, but I never actually got around to reading that. And then there's another one, I'm not sure exactly what it's called. I don't even think it's actually a Silver Surfer story. But it takes place in the future, I think. And Silver Surfer, he's more of a black chrome color, and he has Thor's hammer, I think. And he goes toe-to-toe with Thanos again. And I think he actually frickin' loses, even though he's super ramped up. So if anybody knows the name of that story, leave that below also, so that I can get my Marvel Unlimited or go to the comic shop and pick up the back issues and give that a read, because that's something I really want to check out. So I'm recording this the day before I get to see the Fantastic Four movie. I wish I could actually do it after I see the movie, so that I could throw a bit of a review in here, but I got too much going on that day, and by the time I get home, I'm going to have to be in bed to get up in the morning, so I don't get to do a Silver Surfer review. Not a Silver Surfer, a Fantastic Four review. But I am looking forward to the movie. I love the aesthetic, the 60s New York thing. I like the bright colors. I like that they actually have Galactus that's not a cloud. I have no issues with Shalla-Bal Surfer, unless she's absolutely terrible, but I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, I like that it's more about family, and the new trailer they put out with where they're saying that Galactus was offered to spare Earth, but the price was too high, and they're like, what was that price? And they say that Galactus wanted their son, because Franklin Richards, the first child of Reed and Susan, he is, I think he's pretty much the most powerful human being, person, thing in the whole Marvel Universe at this point. I think he's actually in line to replace Galactus when this universe collapses. I believe it was originally supposed to be the Immortal Man. If you don't know anything about the Immortal Man, just check him out. He's cool. He's just a dude who can't die. But they retcon that into Franklin Richards, and Immortal Man's the backup now. And there's a story where Franklin Richards actually makes Galactus his herald for some reason. I never read that either, but sounds kind of interesting. So that's something else I'm going to check out the next time I re-up my Marvel Unlimited account, because I do that every once in a while throughout the year when I want to read something I read back in the day that I don't have a comic for, or if I just want to check out some new stuff that I was interested in that I didn't buy when it came out because I didn't know about it for whatever reason. And there's another story, I read part of it, and for some reason Galactus had to fight Celestials. Celestials are cosmic beings that I guess are supposed to be on par with Galactus. They are super powerful. They seeded the universe with seed to create different forms of life, like the Eternals and the Deviants and all that stuff. And they show up and they judge planets, and they're huge. They appear larger than Galactus usually does, but size doesn't matter because Galactus' size changes depending on the situation he's in and all that other fun stuff. I mean, he can make himself as small as a human as he wants, but what's intimidating about a human-sized Galactus? Now, when you make him the size of the Empire State Building or bigger, now that's something to be afraid of. But, yeah, and he has to get to a certain thing or whatever, so he eats a crap load of planets and fills himself up, so he's at his max. And I'm pretty sure he takes out 3 or 4 Celestials before they stop him and knock him out, and I'm not sure what happens after that. That might actually be when he was Franklin's herald, but I don't know. But if you know the name of that story, tell me what that one is too, because I really want to read that. Because, you know, Galactus going full out on a bunch of Celestials. That does not sound like a bad story to me at all. And in the drawing aspect of this thing, you can see I did the thing where I flipped the head to make sure Galactus' head wasn't too crooked or off-center before I get on with the rest of them, because it's kind of straight on, and it's a thing that happens sometimes. It actually takes some art from artists that you actually like and flip them. You'll see sometimes the heads are really, really crooked. So to avoid that on things like this, I flip them so you can see that they're crooked, because it gives you a different perspective on it. And then I fix it up and straighten it out a little bit and flip it back over so it goes back to its original purpose and its original spot. And you can see in this one how I kind of just roughed everything in really, really sloppy like, and then I make a new layer for everybody, and I then start to draw on the details and the stuff over that once I get the layout all figured out into a place where I like it. And I believe I've mentioned before, but when I was growing up and I was tracing things and just starting to draw, I came across the Long Shot miniseries done by Art Adams and inked by Wells Portatio, which that's a whole story in and of itself, how that book came together and how Wells Portatio came to ink it, but that's not really related to this video. But Art Adams was my favorite artist. He still is. One of these days I actually got to get a sketch from him. I do every time I go to a convention he's at. I ask him to draw me a stick figure, and he always does, and they're always super cool. I have a Daredevil stick figure, a Hulk stick figure, a Thing stick figure, which actually does relate to the Fantastic Four, a random guy in a box, and a random guy punching at you. And I think there's another one that I'm forgetting. But that's not the point of this story. Back in the late 80s, early 90s, you know, when everything was edgy and hard, and Wolverine and Ghost Rider were the most popular characters, and the Hulk was gray, they decided to do a kind of a crossover in the Fantastic Four, where they made the new Fantastic Four. And basically a Skrull comes down to Earth, and she basically defeats the Fantastic Four. She makes herself look like Sue Storm, and she sets off the emergency beacon to call for help. And the heroes that show up are Wolverine, the Gray Hulk, Ghost Rider, and Spider-Man. And it's actually kind of funny because when they show up at the Baxter building, they're all there, what's going on? We got to get up there, So Ghost Rider drives his flaming motorcycle up the side of the building. It's the Danny Ketch version of Ghost Rider, by the way, not Johnny Blaze. Spider-Man does his web thing and shoots himself up there. The Hulk's like, those poozers aren't going to beat me up there. Poozers, that's a thing, not really a Hulk saying, but he jumps up there to get there, and Wolverine's like, just looking at him like a bunch of frickin' show-offs. So he just walks in the building and gets in the elevator and goes up there, and so I don't remember exactly how that story ends either. I haven't read it in forever, but I do have all 3 issues, and I have the second prints for the first 2 issues. I don't know if there is a third print for the second one, but if there is, it's something I'm going to have to get. It has a gold cover. Back then, when they did second prints, they like to make the background of the cover either gold or silver, so you could differentiate them, and it wasn't just a number issue or a date issue on the cover, and then saying second print on the inside. So they used to differentiate those with gold and silver. Same thing with the first appearance of Carnage. The main first print is white, and the second print has a silver background. Same thing with 362 and 363 of Spider-Man. So if you see those with silver backgrounds, their second printing's not first, and they're not worth as much. I think I'm going to have to start recording these videos really late at night, because, man, those roosters are going nuts. That puppy that sounds like a dog fighting ring is going nuts. It's 7:43 p.m. and somebody's mowing their lawn. I think when I do these things in the late afternoon, people are just like, nah, we're just going to make as much noise as possible and make it as difficult for you to record a vocal track for these drawings of yours because, we don't like you. Nah, they probably don't. They don't know who I am or what I'm doing, and they're just, living out their lives, but it's annoying when you're trying to get something done and everything around you is noise. We also got a bunch of people on dirt bikes and quads, which is kind of illegal to be driven on the streets around here, but they do it anyway. And I actually asked a police officer, because one of the things I do is I volunteer at a local theater, and so the cops are always doing security there, and they said they're not allowed to stop them because it's dangerous. And I don't really care that they do it, but it's really loud when you're trying to do one of these videos. Also, if you should happen to hear a rooster go off in the back of the video or the dog's barking, let me know, because I don't really listen back to these after they're done. So I'd like to know if you guys can hear that out there in YouTube land. Also, it's been a while since I talked about where I got the first appearance of a character, because I never had a first appearance of Superman, that's for sure. I almost had a second appearance of Thor, but that didn't work out. And I know it's blasphemous to admit this on the internet, but I don't read the mangas for the manga characters. I watch the anime, so I don't really have any of those first appearances. So I didn't go buy those off the newsstands either. And even if I was, I probably wouldn't have the original Japanese editions that they first appeared in anyway, because by the time I read it, it's been out for a while, and I'm sure those things cost ridiculous amounts of money on the eBay. Or maybe they don't, because those things sell millions and millions of copies. The manga definitely outsells American comics by a lot these days. So I got my Fantastic Four 48 at a one-day estate sale. It was more of a tag sale, but you were allowed to go into the house. I was, I still do, not as much. I need to start going more often. But I used to go to tag sales every weekend and the flea market every weekend. And one of the things I would look for, obviously, would be comic books. And one day, it was like Saturday night, and I was going to bed, and I don't know why on Saturday night I decided to check the apps that tell you where all the tag sales are, because usually by Sunday all the good stuff is gone. But I saw an ad for a estate sale that, I put that in quotes by the way, an estate sale that had comics, and it was one day only on Sunday. And it was like maybe 15 minutes away from where I lived. So I said, well, I guess I'm getting up early tomorrow and skipping the flea market and going to this estate sale. Because flea markets, maybe once or twice a year, you get a good hit and you find some nice stuff these days. But not so much anymore since pandemic times, and people have had way too much time to figure out what they got locked up in their attics and basements, which is cool. Good for them. Just doesn't help me find cool old comic books. So I go to this estate sale, in quotes, because it really was a tag sale, and it has an enclosed porch, so I get there an hour early. Here's my pro tip: if you're gonna go looking for collectibles at tag sales, and you see one that looks interesting, get there at least an hour early. Not a half hour, not 20 minutes. Don't get there on time. If it says no early birds, chances are they don't care. You know, they just don't want a big rush of people coming there super early. You know, get there an hour early. And don't be rude, you know, just say, hey, you know, I was driving around, I saw you setting up. You mind if I look around? And more times than not, they'll say yes, or they'll say, you know, we're starting this in a little while. You know, so if you want to go wait in your car, come back in like 10 minutes or whatever, 20 minutes. And they're usually really nice about it. I've helped people set up their tag sales and gotten cool stuff that way. But so I get there and I go on the porch. It's an enclosed porch, and there's a box and there's the comics. So I didn't really have to look very hard to find them, because part of it is you want to be the first person to find them. But I was also the first person there, so that didn't really matter for this one. And I see the comic books, and it's like all animal comics and Archies, which are some really good Archies. I didn't know what they were back then, so I might have basically given those away, but that's a whole nother story. And I start looking through it because I saw little bat ears on one of the comics in the picture underneath the other stuff. And it was just a regular old Silver Age Batman. It wasn't a key issue or anything. And I'm looking through the box, and about 6 issues into the first pile, I see it. The Fantastic Four number 48. And it looked like it was really clean. It's been in this box for a long time. So I just sort of yell in the house. I say, hey, these comics out on the porch, how much do you want for them? And the guy yelled back, $100. So I said, yeah, that sounds fair. So I picked up the box. I went inside. I paid the man. I put it in my car. I looked around a little more. He didn't have any more. I asked him if he had any more, you know, in the attic or in the basement, or that he didn't put out yet. And he's like, no, that's it, unfortunately. So I said, cool. And I went home. And I looked through that box, and not only did it have the first appearance of the Silver Surfer in it, that was the only major Fantastic Four. Actually, that was the only major Marvel key in there. I mean, there were some cool Marvel books. There was another Fantastic Four in the 40s, but unfortunately it wasn't one of the Surfer issues, and it wasn't, issue 52, which is the first appearance of Black Panther. That wasn't in there. It didn't have the first appearance of the Inhumans or Black Bolt. Those came before the Surfer a couple issues. I think it was 46. I could be wrong on that too. No, 46 was one of the issues in there. Had the thing on the cover. But anyway, that's not important. And it also had Showcase number 23 in there. That's the second appearance of the Hal Jordan Green Lantern. My favorite Green Lantern, because he's the one that I grew up with. And it also had a bunch of what I call, and I think a lot of people do, I think it's the technical name for it, the pre-hero monster books that Marvel used to put out. So it had like Journey into Mystery in there, but it didn't have any Thor issues. It had the issues before that had giant space monsters, or giant monsters from an island attacking a city, or giant bug people, like the first appearance of Goog and Magog and McGee and a Colossus, and those are super cool. I mean, I think I've mentioned these in another video, so if you ever get a chance to read any of those, or you see a graphic novel, or you see it online in your Marvel Unlimited app or whatever, I don't know if they're in there. But if you get a chance to read them, you should, because they're just Jack Kirby at his most insane, and it's crazy stuff. That's almost as crazy as what he did when he went to DC and he did the Fourth World, and he did all that other kind of stuff. That stuff was pretty insane too. Yeah, so I kept all that stuff, and then I didn't really know what to do with the rest of it, all the animal books and the Archies, which I should have looked through, because with my luck there was a first Sabrina in there, which is a grail that I would like to get for myself. Maybe I'll draw Sabrina the Teenage Witch one day, but I don't think anybody would watch that. And so I took the rest of them to one of my local comic shops. I'm like, hey, Mr. Comic Shop man who shall remain nameless, I don't know what to do with these, and I know that you have people who come in looking for Archies, and they come in looking for all these weird Silver Age books. So, make me an offer on them, and they're yours. So I left them there for a few days because I trust the guy. And I go back, he's having a big sale for whatever holiday it was. I think it was a Christmas sale. And I asked him, I say, hey, did you get a chance to look at books? He's like, I didn't yet, but how about I'll give you $200 for them all? I'm like, yeah, man, that's cool. That gives me my money back and then some, and then I could get to keep these the Silver Surfer first appearance and the Hal Jordan, and then I could sell off the rest to pay some bills and stuff, and life will be good. But then I'm like, how about you give me $250 in trade? And he's like, yeah, that's cool. So I got a Amazing Spider-Man 300 off his wall. The second appearance of Venom, first appearance if you look in a price guide. And I also got a X-Men 101, the first appearance of Phoenix. So not only did I get a first Silver Surfer and a second appearance of Hal Jordan in that box of goodies, in the trade I ended up with a first Venom and a first Phoenix. And that Venom book is actually kind of funny because he got that book from me. I bought it at another comic shop in another town, and it was really clean, man. Me and a friend of mine thought I was going to get a high grade, like 9.4 to 9.8. So we sent it out to be graded, and at the time I didn't have my own account or know how to do that. So I brought it to that store, and he sent it out to be graded for me. And it came back at 9.0. I was mad at that. I was not happy with that grade at all. And, everybody who looked at it thought it was better. And later on I learned that, CGC makes mistakes, but that's a whole nother story too. So I'm like, man, I don't really want to deal with this book. So he asked me what I paid for it, and I told him. He's like, I'll give you that for it. So he paid me for it. I took a loss on the grading fees, and that was it. And then he sent that Amazing Spider-Man 300 off to be graded at a different grading company. And it came back a higher grade. I think it came back a 9.4 or something. But it came back a 9.4 restored. Like I forgot what the restoration was. I think it said trimmed or something. So he just didn't want to deal with it either. So I got it back off him in the trade, and I listed it on eBay. And I was honest about it. I said it used to be a graded CGC 9.0 and then a CBCS trim, but we don't believe it was trimmed because I think CGC would have caught that too. But just giving you the information so you know what you're bidding on. And it ended up selling for about what I paid for it originally, and since I really didn't pay anything for it when I got it from the comic shop, it was a win for me because I already had the CGC 9.8 that I talked about in another video at that time, so I didn't need another one. And I got my Fantastic Four number 49. I honestly don't remember. I think I just bought that at a comic shop because it was a good price. And then I got the number 50 at a tag sale. Again, this one cost a little more. I think it cost me like $20 or $30. It was in pretty rough shape though. A lot of people don't like that cover because it's brown and it has the Silver Surfer flying at you. But it's a really cool Kirby drawing of the Silver Surfer, so I don't mind that it's brown. Also, the second appearance of Thor, Journey in the Mystery 84, that has a brown cover on it too. So I guess that's just a 60s thing where they put brown backgrounds on covers. Maybe one of the drawings I do, if it's a Silver Age character, I'll figure out a way to do the background brown that doesn't look awful, because brown can look pretty darn awful. But brown's also a neutral color, so it really works with just about anything. So we'll see if I can figure that one out. I don't think it'll work on the next drawing I'm doing, which is not the next one to air. The next one to air is going to be The Bride of Frankenstein. So if anybody's into horror or classic vintage Universal monsters, that's the video for you. That was a fun one to draw too. I had a little fun with her. I was going to make her all punk rock, but I didn't like the way the vest looked on her. But you'll see. It's cool. And then the next one after that is going to be Spike Spiegel from Cowboy Bebop, my personal favorite anime because I'm an old person. Now this video and the Superman one are actually pretty long. They clock in at over an hour. The video in between those two, Gojo, which is probably my most watched video so far, is only about half hour. I think it's just under a half hour, just over a half hour. So I don't know what the sweet spot is, and I don't mind talking for an hour about these characters because I love this stuff. But let me know if you think an hour is too long. If an hour is not enough, I could actually make them longer if you want. But I don't know, is there a sweet spot? Is a half hour good? Is an hour good? Is 20 minutes good? I'm just wondering what the consensus on all that is because, this is your time, not mine. So I want it to be as efficient for you as it is for me. So yeah, that's another thing. Leave in the comments how long you think is the perfect time for a video to be. because I really have no idea. I could do this for 3 hours and it wouldn't bother me at all. But I doubt many people would be sticking around for a 3-hour video. But if I do a 3-hour video, I gotta get some throat lozenges or something, because I'm pretty sure you can hear every once in a while my voice cracks, and so I have to stop it, go back, re-record that line. It's a real pain in the butt, to be honest with you, so I gotta do something about my throat. It doesn't like me talking too long. So one fun thing about the 90s Silver Surfer issues was he ran into a bunch of other heralds of Galactus, because after the Silver Surfer got banished to Earth, Galactus still needed a herald because he figured that was the way to go. So I believe his next herald, correct me if I'm wrong, was Terrax. And Terrax was not as good a person as Norrin Radd. He didn't care what worlds Galactus ate or whatever. And I don't remember why Terrax stopped being Galactus' herald. Probably because he betrayed him or something, tried to steal his power. And I don't know why, but Galactus always leaves the power cosmic into the people he picks to be his heralds, even after they're not his heralds anymore. Because I think he just doesn't really think it's a threat to him, and it doesn't affect his powers at all. So, why bother with these ants? I'm done with them. And, so there's issues where the Silver Surfer fights Terrax. There's issues where Firelord shows up. Firelord was another one of Galactus' heralds, who weirdly got beaten by Spider-Man in an issue. Spider-Man actually fought him in New York City. I forgot why he was in New York City. He was looking for something. And, yeah, Spider-Man beat him. That's one of those weird power scaling moments that don't make sense. And I think Firelord's first appearance is an issue of Thor, because I'm pretty sure I have that in a box somewhere, or I had it. I don't remember. I gotta go through my comics one day and figure it all out. And then, of course, there's Frankie Ray. She's a cool one. She's Nova. The one that I don't understand why they didn't just use Nova in the movie and then have... Because it would have had the same effect as Shalla-Bal. It just wouldn't have been called the Silver Surfer, so... I guess name recognition is a thing. Or they also might not have wanted to use Nova because they're actually going to bring in Richard Rider, or... what's the kid? Sam something. The kid who was Nova in the... newer comics, so then they got a conflict with the name because they already have one Nova, and then if they have two Novas, it gets confusing. So that could be one of the reasons why they went with Shalla-Bal. There might have been a story beat that happens in this movie where it serves better to have Shalla-Bal as the Surfer instead of Norrin Radd. That's entirely possible. I'll find out tomorrow night. I also don't mind it because Earth-X, I believe I mentioned this for some reason, because I talked about doing this video in another one. Earth-X was something that happened in the future of the Marvel Universe, and I think Alex Ross did all the designs and had the story idea, and then I think Kurt Busiek wrote it. And most of the issues were illustrated by John Paul Leon, one of my favorite artists of all time. Unfortunately, he's not with us anymore, but I did run into him at New York Comic-Con one year, and I got a sketch from him. I had him draw the Rocketeer, and at the time, iPhones were new, and he asked me what I wanted him to draw for him, because we had a little conversation, and I said, the Rocketeer, because when I get sketches done at conventions, if I could afford them, I almost always have whoever it is draw the Rocketeer, unless it's an artist that's known for something else, then I'll have him draw something like that. And he's like, oh, I love the Rocketeer, but I have no idea what the Rocketeer looks like. So I said, oh, all right, well, I'll go out on the floor and I'll see if I can find a Rocketeer comic and I'll bring it back to you. Because I showed him a picture on my phone quick because I had an iPhone at the time. And he's like, oh, okay. So yeah, I went out to find a book and I couldn't really find one because New York Comic-Con, while there are comics, it's usually keys and stuff, and there's not really a lot of affordable stuff there, and if there is, it's just like dollar boxes and stuff, and at the time, nobody's buying Rocketeer comics, so I went back and I'm like, oh, I couldn't find one, but pause, we're pretty much done with the inks here. As you can see, there was a big skip, and that's where I stopped recording, and I picked it up, and when I realized it, I was this far into it, I do a little more detail on Galactus and stuff. But anyway, back to John Paul Leon. So I go back and like I couldn't find a comic, so maybe you could do somebody else for me. I think he did a Typhoid Mary series at the time, and he did a Batman series, so I was gonna have him do one of those too. He's like, oh, don't worry about it. My buddy here, another artist who was at the table with him, had an iPhone, and he was able to look up the Rocketeer, and he used that for reference. And then he's like, you gonna be here tomorrow? I'm like, yeah, I'll be here tomorrow, because I think it was Friday I asked him to do that. And it's a 3-day thing, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And here's the finished inks. I keep cutting off my John Paul Leon story, and then we're going to get to these colors. So, yeah, sorry I skipped a big chunk of the inks, but all the colors are here. So we got that going for us. And Galactus has the weirdest and coolest color combination of any omnipotent godlike character out there. One of the most powerful characters in the Marvel Universe, and he's pink and blue. So, yeah, thank you, Jack Kirby, for being ridiculous. I love this stuff. So back to John Paul Leon. So I go back the next day, and it's pretty late before this thing closes. And I'm like, hey, I commissioned the Rocketeer. He's like, oh, yeah, I'm working on that. He's like, are you going to be here tomorrow? I'm like, yeah, why? He's like, cause I'm actually having a really good time drawing this, and I want to make sure that I do it justice. And I don't want to rush this one, because I'm really liking it. I'm like, all right, that's cool. I'm not going to argue that. I'm going to be here anyway. So I picked it up the next day, and it's awesome. I still have it in a frame in my living room, and it's one of my most cherished pieces of art that I own, and that's something I'm never going to let go, because I have let go of things that I said that about before, but not this one. Another fun thing about this drawing that I should bring up is when I inked it, I did not use any blacks. For Galactus, I used a dark purple, and for the Surfer, I used a dark blue. The Surfer almost looks black, but if you really zoom in on him, you can see that he's blue. And I didn't want any black in this at all. Even on the background, it's still a dark blue and a light purple. And also, if you notice the coloring on it, it looks almost like it's a crayon on rough paper instead of solid colors like you normally get. I usually do the solid color, then I'll break them up a little bit with a paper texture. And on this one, I knew exactly what I wanted to look like. I wanted it to kind of look like an old printing press, but not to the point where it was all off center and all that stuff, because then I gotta mix tritones and all that stuff, and we didn't want to get into that. But I found this brush set by my favorite texture company, True Grit Texture. Sponsor me one of these days when people start watching these videos all the way through. And it's called Riziocraft, and it's a printing thing where, you know, basically photocopies in color, and they're never perfect, and the dots line up, and it's a really neat effect. And you know, I'm not gonna go run this thing through a photocopier 10 times to get the effect, but you can buy the brushes, and so I did that. I bought a special brush set just to color Galactus and the Surfer. So I hope you guys appreciate this, but it was worth it, and I'm sure I will use this on many other drawings that I do. In fact, I'll probably use them on the Spike drawing that's coming up in a couple weeks, because I think he would be fun to do old school comic style, even though he's an anime character. Plus, after I do a drawing like this Galactus Surfer one, which is kind of involved and actually took a while to get done because I had to split it up between different days and stuff, and you know, there's the two characters, the colors, getting the brushes and all that stuff. I like to do something a little simpler to cleanse the palette and get me ready for another crazy one. And so that's what Spike's gonna be. Spike's just gonna be a fun, quick one. Although I'm looking at it and I like them, and I'm deciding if I should throw in Faye or Ein or Jet or something. But the way I'm drawing him, it's pretty much set up just as a single drawing. So we'll see. I'm gonna get back to that this weekend and finish it off. Okay, so I did a few weeks ago, I did Taskmaster versus Deathstroke, and I did Chibi style with the cute big heads and the little bodies, kind of Scotty Youngish, but not Scotty Youngish, because, you know, he's his own thing and he's awesome. And the same guy, Mike Stivitz, I believe that's how you say it. I'm pronouncing it wrong again, Mike, I'm sorry, correct me in the comments, because I know you actually watch these things all the way through. And he suggested I do Captain Carrot and the Booze crew. And as much as I like Captain Carrot, I actually own an issue, because the aforementioned Art Adams his first published work for a major company was a pinup in the back of an issue of Captain Carrot. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that one, but the reason I bring that up is if any of you do have a suggestion and it's slightly less ridiculous than Captain Carrot, even though I love stuff that's ridiculous, but I just don't think anybody would watch that, to be honest with you. Let me know. I might do it because I just kind of decide on something the day I start drawing, and I'm like, all right, who do we want to draw today? Like, I was sitting down in front of TV the other day with my iPad, I'm like, who are we going to draw? And I said, I'm going to draw Spike, because Spike is my favorite anime character. So that's why I picked him, no other reason. So let me know. But as you can see in the background here, I went with this purple. I actually ended up dulling it down a lot, and it almost looks like a gray in the final drawing, and I do like it. But part of me kind of wishes I just darkened up this purple a little bit, because the background is just a dark blue and a purple, and then I throw a star field over it, and it's cool. I dig it. But that purple's kind of neat. I just thought it was too light. It didn't look dark enough for space. So that's why we went with purple. And as you can see, the Silver Surfer, his inks aren't all that detailed. Well, I did put a lot of line work on them I normally don't put on characters. No hatching, just feathering, which is more of an old school kind of Silver Age technique that those guys used to do back then. But I decided I was going to put all his textures on him with color. So I make him look shiny with some blues. So that's how we get the look of the Silver Surfer. And I really like the way that worked out, because if I just had black lines all over him and then I colored between them, it just wouldn't have had the same effect. So sometimes you can't color everything black. That's my pro tip for this one. And if you look at like a lot of anime and a lot of manga covers and drawings, they don't really always color the characters with black. They usually, you know, for the fleshy parts, they'll use like a dark brown and a lighter brown. If the hair is yellow, they'll use a dark yellow outline instead of black, or they'll use a brown. If they're doing blues, they'll use dark blue for the outlines. So things like that. So when you're working on something, you know, think about that. Say, how would this look if I used darker colors of what's in the character instead of black for everything? You know, it just gives everything a different look. Like, I think this Galactus looks pretty darn good. I just think if I did him in black and I did the surfer in black and then I put black in the sky behind him, it would have had a more graphic look to it, but I don't think it would have been as Silver Agey or as fun. So sometimes you just gotta think outside the box a little bit, and that's not even really thinking outside the box. It's just trying something different, something that I normally don't do. Like these risograph brushes. Like, I love using my Zipatone dots, which I do use on this to do the shading, but the risograph was fun. And if you guys want to download those brushes and try them, I don't know how much they cost. I think I got them on sale. They were like 20 bucks. But you could get them for Clip Studio, you could get them for Procreate, you get them for Photoshop, and I think they got them for Illustrator too. This is not sponsored. I don't get anything for this, except that I actually use them. And they're done by a company called True Grit Texture Supply. I won't leave a link because I'll forget to do that, because I always do. But yeah, so if you watch this far and you're curious how these colors were done, that's how I did it. And since I'm jumping around like a bad 90s copy of a Quentin Tarantino movie, we're going to get back to John Paul Leone. He did Earth X. I believe it was in the late 90s. It might have been the early 2000s. They all had cool Alex Ross covers, which kind of sucked because I really would have liked to have seen the John Paul Leone covers. Maybe there were variants, I don't know. And it had something to do with Machine Man X-83 in the future, and the future is weird and different, and the characters all look different. All the costumes are designed by Alex Ross and all that fun stuff. And part of that is the Silver Surfer. And the Silver Surfer, instead of just being by himself, he is with Shalla-Bal, and they share the board, and they're doing Silver Surfery stuff together. In fact, I'm not sure how that works, because there's issues where the Silver Surfer goes back to Zenla, and he just goes there, and I don't know if he time travels, or if he's only been the Herald of Galactus for like a couple of years. And so if you know that answer, let me know, because I don't feel like looking it up right now, but it just occurred to me. He goes back to Zenla a few times in the 90s, and it's just kind of there. But yeah, so he's doing the Silver Surfer stuff, Norrin Rad, with Shalla-Bal, and they're together. And I don't know if they get separated or if something happens, because I read it back in the 90s, and I have my mother's memory. And if you ever met my mother, you would know exactly what I'm talking about and why that's not a good thing. So yeah, so there was a Shalla-Bal surfer in the comics, and it doesn't bother me. I mean, I would like to see Norrin Rad. I think I said that earlier in the video, but we'll see what happens. Here I'm at that coloring part I was talking about on the surfer, where, you know, most of the time I would just do this with black lines, and then I would just throw some color over it and call it a day. But I just wasn't feeling that for this one. I wanted to try something a little different. I mean, it's not different than what I would normally do as far as the design, but it is different as far as my approach, because normally I would use the black lines, or in this case the dark blue lines that I used to ink the surfer with. But I think this was the way to go. In fact, I go a little too dark at first, and you see me adjust the colors so they get a little more teal and stuff. And I'm happy with it. And again, don't be afraid to try something new. It sometimes works out for the best. I mean, this might have looked better in black. I don't know, but I know that it looks good this way. At least to me it does. If you hate it, let me know. In the 60s, the Surfer had some interesting stories. I don't remember if this was in his ongoing series, but I think it was in the Fantastic Four, where Dr. Doom steals the Surfer's powers and he goes amok, and just shows you how dangerous Dr. Doom can be, because he could build a machine that could steal the power cosmic from the Silver Surfer. I think he tried it on Galactus once too, and it didn't go so well, but yeah. And then I had the whole run of the original Surfers at one time. I got number 4, which is one of those classic covers by Sal Buscema, I think it is. John Buscema, one of those two. And it's the Silver Surfer flying towards Thor. It's a side-on shot, and Thor's got the hammer pulled back, and you see the Rainbow Bridge in the background. And I don't know if this story is true or not, but I heard that's a short print run where there's not as many copies out there as all the other issues. And what I heard, I don't remember if I read it somewhere or if a comic shop owner told me or if it was in a magazine, because I was reading all those comic magazines at the time and soaking in everything I can. But the story that I know says that, you know, the printer, I think the printer was either in Bridgeport, Connecticut, or it was somewhere in New York. They didn't print them in Canada back then. And the book with the shipments on it crashed. And a lot of the books were destroyed. They ended up all over the road. And I don't know if that was all the issues or just a part of the print run going somewhere. And so because of that, not as many issues are out there, and it's considered a low print run. So it's worth a little more than, well, it's worth a lot more than your basic issue of that series, except for like number 1 and 3, because of that. Or it could just be because it's the really cool Sal Buscema cover. I got my issue of that at a little card comic shop. They had a box full of low-grade comics, and they were really cheap. And in that box, I pulled out the Silver Surfer number 4. I think that was like $30, which even for a low-grade copy with the cover attached was a steal. And I also got Flash. I forgot the number, but it's the first appearance of Professor Zoom. And I do love my Flash comics. One of the grails that I want to get is 110 or 111. I forgot what number it is, but that's the first appearance of Wally West, because he was my Flash. So I think that would be a fun book to get. And you know what? I mentioned that I think the Surfer could beat Superman. But I'm honestly not sure if I think he could beat Wally West or even Barry Allen. I don't think he could steal the Speed Force. And as fast as the Surfer is, I don't think he's faster than a Flash. Huh. I'm going to have to give that some more thought. Just popped into my head. So, we'll continue that in another video. Because, you know, even though the Flash video didn't do so well, it was also one of my early ones. So, I don't know if that was just that, or people aren't interested in the Flash, or if I just did a bad drawing that nobody liked. But I like the Flash, so I'm sure he will be back. Or I'll do like a whole Justice League thing or something. That'll be fun. And then issue 3 of the Silver Surfer series introduces Mephisto. He's like basically, he's the devil. He's the ruler of hell. The Surfers fought him a bunch of times. And I guess he made his appearance in the Blackheart TV show, which I have not watched. I probably will watch it because, I'm a glutton for any TV show with a superhero, even good or bad. And I don't know if it's good or bad because I haven't watched it. And for some reason, when I watch these things and people say they're terrible, I usually disagree. And there's parts of it that I like. It's usually the ones that people like that I find issues with. So that's kind of weird. But, my tastes are all over the place when it comes to this stuff. Because like Kevin Smith, he said a thing where he's like, we should just be grateful that these movies exist and we should watch all of them. Because back when he was a kid, which was also when I was a kid, you didn't have this and we wanted it. And now that we have it, we complain about it. And I don't complain about it so much, but I also don't think you have to like something just because it exists. I still think it has to be good. There has to be care put into it. It has to be well crafted. It has to be a good story. Just because a Captain America movie doesn't exist doesn't mean that I have to like it. Although I do like all 3 of the original Captain America movies, and I didn't really like the new one so much, the New World Order. It wasn't terrible, it just wasn't my thing. But the Fantastic Four looks like it's exactly my thing, so. The ridiculous, bright, colorful era of 1963. Because the Fantastic Four basically started Marvel's push into superheroes. They were just doing romance books and those monster books I talked about earlier. And then in 1961, Stan Lee did the Fantastic Four. I'm not sure exactly why. I don't know if... but he did. And that introduced Marvel's first family. And it sold a lot of copies. So then he talked his, I think it was his brother-in-law, into letting them, because he was the publisher at the time and Stan was just a writer and editor, and he talked him into letting him do Spider-Man in the last canceled issue of Amazing Fantasy 15, which was Amazing Adult Fantasy before that. And so the Fantastic Four kicked off the age of Marvel heroes, and which brought us the Silver Surfer and Galactus. They've also done other weird stuff with Galactus. I think in like the Ultimates, they made him, instead of the Devourer Worlds, they made him the Lifebringer, and they made his purple and magenta costume into like a yellow and an orange. And I didn't read any of that, but I thought that was a nice twist, just sticking it around and trying something different with Galactus. And I don't know how that went. And I know at one point he became Franklin Richards' herald for some reason. And then I think in like not so long ago in Thor, he became Thor's herald for some reason, which baffles me because, I get it. They want Thor to be this powerful Superman type of guy, but I mean, Galactus is Galactus. They're not gonna, a cosmic hero or anything below a certain god tier shouldn't really stand a chance against Galactus, even if he's hungry. I think he is going to be one of the final survivors of the universe. I think they actually showed that in one thing. So, who knows? I never really read a lot of Thor. We went over that in the Superman video. So, I don't really know much about what goes on in the Thor books. But I guess he made Galactus his herald because, I forgot what it was, the villain. But, the villain was seeking out Galactus, and Galactus kind of wasn't letting on what he knew, or he was afraid of him or something. The Black Winter, that's what it was called. So, Thor made Galactus his herald to fight him, and of course they win. And I don't know how exactly, but yeah, for a time Galactus was Thor's herald, which weird. And you can see with the coloring now how I busted out my favorite little Ben-Day dots, another True Grit texture thing, and I use them for the shading, and then I go back to the dither tones for the highlights because I thought it'd be a little too much on the dot side. I didn't want to overdo it. In fact, I don't use any dots on the Silver Surfer, although I do add a little shine to his head and his arms that come off of his body, and I do use a really tight Ben-Day dot on that. And here with with Galactus' face, this dark orange, I didn't like it, and I faded it out to almost nothing. And then I realized at the end that it he didn't have any shading on his face, so I added that in at the end. And yeah, so that's how I finish out Galactus. You might notice that I talk mostly about comics and the events that happened in the 80s and the 90s, and I don't really get too much into modern stuff unless it's something I want to read or I'm interested in or I've heard about it. I haven't really read a lot of modern comics. So if there are any Fantastic Four / Surfer / Galactus stories that I didn't mention here that I already know that I'm going to read, that you think would be good to fill in some of my gaps on the characters and their power creeps and whatnot, let me know, because I would like to get more into some of the modern stuff, but not get bogged down in all of the continuity, because then it just gets a little crazy. Actually, the Starfield I was putting over there, one of the blending modes I put on, made Galactus's head darker in the magenta tone. I kind of like that. I might go back and see how that looks when I go to make prints of these. But I don't do that in this drawing, unfortunately, so you're kind of stuck with this. One of the things that I was worried about this one was that it would be hard to read because of, the dither tone and, just Galactus with Surfer in front. But I honestly think that the Surfer being mostly white and with the magenta and the blue, I think it really helped them separate. So I'm really happy with the way this came out, and I look forward to doing other group shots and things that are a little different for me and a little more complicated, even though the next two are going to be a little straightforward. But I also think I mentioned that I started a Frankenstein versus Frankenberry. I might finish that. And you'll see in the other two, you see a little bit of it in the Superman review that I did, if you want to watch that. I thought that was kind of fun. But I watched a Mike Mignola documentary, and I actually did a drawing of the bride that's straight up Mike Mignola, and I kind of like it. It's just a headshot, so you're not going to see that on the channel. But I did steal some of the layout cues that they talk about in there, and I use those in the background in the black to draw yourself to certain parts of drawings. So I use that in the next couple drawings for the background, and we'll talk about it then. And here the Surfer, I wanted him to have like a power burst coming out of his hand, but I kind of wanted a Kirby crackle. Kirby crackle is like black dots everywhere, and they surround things, and it just looks like energy. And they actually make Photoshop brushes and clip brushes that do the Kirby crackle thing, but I want to do it myself. And I actually drew a Galactus a while ago where the Kirby crackle was around his hands and it was a yellow energy. And I did something similar here where I drew the dots. And then in Photoshop, I mentioned earlier how I have a way that I turn different things into the Ben-Day dots. You make a gradient and you do a few things, and it kind of makes it look like it's glowing almost. You put a few different layers on. But I have no idea how to do that in Clip Studio, so I didn't. But I like the way that the dots here, how they almost have a glowing look to them. And took a few different tries with the color and the blending mode, but once it started to work, I really got into it. I add a little more highlight to Galactus here and stuff. And also remember that if you're doing something with layers and colors and you're trying to get a certain effect and it's not working, play with your blending modes. You'd be surprised. Some of them do unexpected things with certain color combinations that you just didn't think would do anything. Like this one, for example, I had that happen. I was like, damn, this does not look like it's glowing. And then I had to play with it a little bit, and I went through a couple different blending modes. Like, oh, that's it. Because you can see how it turned like the blue in the Surfer's hand brighter, and how when I put it over Galactus's shoulder, how it brightened that up, and how when you put it on the magenta, it almost looks white. So that's all just a blending mode. That has nothing to do with the color that I'm using at all. I mean, it does. The blue affects certain things differently, but if I didn't pick a color mode, it wouldn't have worked. And here I am adding the Ben-Day dots to Galactus' face, and that's it. We're done again. So thanks for joining me for another drawing, and I hope to see you again next week. And hit the follow and subscribe, and enjoy your weekend. Go see the Fantastic Four. It might be pretty good. Who knows?